Yo, 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 welcome to the Young Jerks. It's Mike Crawford. We're going to be speaking to a guest tonight. It should be a pretty chill, hopefully chill show, which means we should be able to get phone calls in too. So if you do want to call in tonight, we should have open phone lines. I did set that up so you can call in. 978-560-3155 is the phone number. My name is Mike Crawford. We could be talking about TrueLeaf, of course, things that we didn't even get to cover on the last show. But tonight I want to bring up a guest. Maybe we might mention TrueLeaf. I know TrueLeaf always gets the phone lines buzzing. So I have to bring it up because if I don't bring up TrueLeaf, people are like, what about TrueLeaf tonight? But we're talking cannabis and we could get into TrueLeaf. But tonight we're talking to Chris Becker. He's with the Honeybee Collective. He's somebody I want to have on the show for quite a while, specifically to talk about what the Honeybee Collective is. He's a co-founder of it, and I'd love to hear more about it, and also some of the discussions that we have on Twitter. He's very popular on social media. Kind of flesh it out in person. So welcome to the show, Chris Becker.
Thanks for having me, Mike. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate your show and all the advocacy you've been doing over the years.
You likewise.
Thank you.
And where are you located right now? Where are you at?
I'm physically sitting in the parking lot of a dog park in Denver, Colorado.
In Denver.
Yeah.
So what's a Denver dog park like? Is it like everywhere else, I'm guessing, like my dog park, or is it anything different about Denver's dog park?
A lot. The dogs skew a little bit bigger than other places, I think. But other than that, it's pretty much the same everywhere you go.
Awesome. And you're with I like that the dogs are larger in Colorado. They're giant dogs in the dog parks. My little guys might not like it. They get scared of the big dogs. They sometimes hide. It's funny.
I actually saw what was it? It was a wiener dog yesterday. No, it was a Chihuahua. It was wearing armor to protect it from bigger dogs. It had like a broom, like a Prussian warrior's helmet sticking up, and then spikes like on a goth collar. It was very interesting.
That's interesting because I've seen those, but we use those for like coyotes. Like that's what, like for wildlife, and they're using it in the dog park. That's like that, it makes sense because myself, I'm a dog walker. People know that, and I do dog care. That's my full-time business. And sometimes I go to the dog park, but I get too stressed out of the dog park. I try to be a chill guy, but it can be stressful at the dog park. And it's usually not the other dogs. It's usually the other owners, honestly. But it's interesting in a small town. Other people love to go to the dog park, but I more like the trails and the walks and things like that. But we're not here for dogs, but we could talk about your dog, B, who is a big star on social media. And she's right there. I can see her. See, I got to enlarge you now so we can see B. We've got Honeybee Collective up here. I want you to tell us about Honeybee. Tell us all about what Honeybee is and what you're doing with that.
Cool. So the Honeybee Collective is a sustainable cannabis brand. We're based here in Colorado. We're expanding into New York this year. We were founded on 3 pillars. We're employee owned for a more equitable future. We're community driven to make sure that people are getting what they want and that we're evolving with what the everyday consumer wants. And we identify as a sustainable brand. So we strive to provide products and product choices that are environmentally friendly and people friendly.
I gotta compliment B too, because now I'm watching her and she's just chill. Like I know she went to the dog park, but my dog, I have him in here sometimes when I'm alone and I'm doing the dog sit with him, and he ends up running around the room, jumping in my lap. Is B always like that? She just sits by your side and
95% of the time, exceptionally chill. Yeah, we got her when she was about 4 months old, and I've been selling weed legally the whole time. So she started going to dispensaries with me. We'd go to 8, 10, 12 a day. So she's met thousands of people and loves her job. Earns way more than I do.
That's awesome. She looks wicked cute. I'm in love with B now. I already was, but now I like seeing her on video. How cool she is. So with Honeybee, like it's very different in my opinion that you are employee owned. Like there aren't a lot of employee owned opportunities, I think, right now in cannabis. Am I correct on that?
That's correct. Few and far between. I actually couldn't name another employee-owned cannabis company. There are a few cooperatives which are functionally very similar, but not quite the same. We were really looking to create a business model that rewards the people that are creating value for the business, right? I worked for a couple of other cannabis companies, both a testing lab and a vertically integrated company. And while they were good opportunities, there wasn't really an option to have ownership in the business. And I lived in Maryland. It was a limited license state. So there were no options to be an owner in the cannabis industry in the state that I lived in. And I found that very frustrating. And so we wanted to create a brand. I understood the brand business model and that it takes less money and that it's a little bit more flexible. You can take it more places, and give the workers ownership in the business so that they would have a real financial return if the business is successful.
And how has that been going? Like, because it's different. I'm wondering how the financial results are, and how is it going for the employees?
So currently we have one full-time employee that's a salesperson, and we've grown from 0 stores about 18 months ago to selling in 38 stores as of this week. We closed a few more this week. So we've got one full-time employee, and we guarantee everybody that works with us a livable wage. We find that through the MIT living wage calculator, and then we add a little bit to, because it's a livable wage isn't really enough. It should be a thriving wage. And so far so good. I mean, we are approaching profitability, and we are on a sustainable path. If we don't grow the business too much, and if we want to grow it, we just need to raise a little bit of money to absorb the costs of like opening up new states, bringing on new employees. But it's going very well.
Now, what states are those stores in that you're providing product to?
Currently, they're all in Colorado. We are dropping product in New York, hopefully late September. Packaging is getting delivered to our partner there very shortly.
So soon, New York, Colorado. Any other plans to go to other states, you think, or not?
We're in talks in Massachusetts. We're in talks in New Jersey. I'd say we're probably at least 6 to 12 months in either of those from actually having any product in market. But those are 2 that we have our eye on. States where people share our values, right? We did a lot of surveys when we built the brand, to make sure that we were giving people what they want. And the ideals that we're talking about, employee ownership, sustainability, that kind of thing, we pull really well on the coasts. But when I've polled in places like Michigan, we get called like commie weed bullshit. You know what I mean? Not everybody appreciates what we're doing, so it's fine.
So, is this like, do you do medical, adult use, or both? Like in the states that you're in and going into?
We're only in the adult use market in Colorado. The medical market here is severely declining, so there's not a lot of opportunity for us there. In New York, we will also be adult use only. Yeah, I mean, we're not like a wellness brand or anything like that. We're a fun brand. We're a brand that gives you a choice in a product you're already using, that you can know it's environmentally friendly and people friendly. So that's what we're trying to do, is make it easier to choose product that aligns with your values when you spend that money.
What about Massachusetts? Is that adult use too?
That'll be adult use.
See, that's what's killing me. Because, like, I mostly, I'm talking about personally as a consumer, I travel quite a bit to Maine, the state of Maine, for product because I'm on the medical side. So they accept our cards up there. The products are phenomenal, but a lot of times I don't want to drive. And all the best brands now are on the adult side, but the tax is 20%. So it's like, it's tough to make a medical patient pay the 20% like myself. And it's just like, I'm hoping we're going to change that. We're trying to change that to like basically allow medical patients to buy adult use without taxation. Like that's hopefully going to happen. But there's a bill right now. But I just kind of sucks. Like I actually went yesterday and bought adult use. I paid the tax. You know, it's like, you know, because there are medical stores up here, but they just kind of suck. They're the old school ones. They're the big companies. They don't,
Yeah.
I don't want the price. People always think it's about the price. A lot of it is about the price, but it's also at a certain point about the quality. And for me, like that's the biggest thing. I want good price with good quality. And it's hard to find, and when you add the 20% tax on. So I just hope the regulators catch up to that the medical's dying. I think we gotta throw a lifeline to the patient somehow. I hope, I know some of them listen locally in Massachusetts. So I hope that's a topic of discussion for states that are losing their medical, because the best brands are adult use now.
Maryland did that too with their adult use statute. Medical patients can buy without the tax. It does help support the medical market. It gives people an incentive to keep the card. Otherwise, they're just going to drop the card and pay the tax. And for some states, that might be what they want. But if you really are writing policy for the patient, for the constituent, they shouldn't have to pay the tax if they have the medical card.
And the thing is, with adult use, the amount of patients has gone down anyway. So it's like this isn't a large amount of people. The people that are left as patients generally are really patients now. You know what I mean? Like in the past, it was like your only option to get cannabis was to be a patient. So everybody was a patient. But a lot of the, adult use folks now aren't patients. So
for sure,
like folks like me, I'm a real patient. Like I got real medical issues like a lot of people do. So I hope the legislators and the commissioners take that up. But let's talk about some other things too, because I know that you've been following what's going on in New York. There's a lawsuit that basically did an injunction, and it kind of like there's already a lot of problems in New York, and then this lawsuit just threw in the monkey wrench. And I know that you were like going heavy on Twitter about it, and I don't want to like lay out exactly what's going on because I know I'll get some details wrong. Could you kind of tell us what's going on in New York?
Sure. I'll talk about it broadly because I don't want to get any particular legal details wrong either on live. But in general, the state legalized weed 2 years ago, and they gave a bunch of licenses, 460 something, I believe, to justice impacted individuals over the past few months. They had an open application period for people that had prior charges, and they gave out a lot of licenses. But some people didn't get licenses. And there's a group of veterans who have sued the state of New York with some justification that veterans are included in the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act as a class that is supposed to be uplifted with the legalization and all these revenues and potential profits that come along with it. So they sued the state of New York to have themselves included and open up the licensing applications for veterans in addition to justice impacted individuals. And then a group called the Coalition for Access to Safe and Regulated Cannabis has joined that lawsuit. And that coalition is made up largely of, in New York, they're called ROs, but it's multi-state operators that have large cultivation and dispensary operations in New York. They're joining the suit, and they want the state to, they're saying the state should open up licensing to everybody, which there may be some merits to that, but there's also a lot of merit to the experiment that New York has been running and trying to give first mover advantage to justice impacted individuals that were harmed by the war on drugs.
And it's basically, would those other big cannabis companies eventually be allowed in the market? Are they just kind of like delayed? Is that what's going on, or would they permanently?
They've always been allowed access at some point. Originally, the timeline was 3 years before they were going to be allowed access to the market. That was moved up, I think, to January 2024, so right around the corner. and now it could even be as soon as October, if this injunction is lifted. If it's not, who knows what happens.
And basically that's holding up a bunch of good equity applicants from opening. That's really what this has done, right?
So the 460 something applications that have been granted are conditional, and the state has been disallowed from converting any of them to active licensees. So there were, I am aware of 20 plus who were ready to open in the next 30 days. Many more were ready to open in the next 60 to 90 days. And until this injunction's lifted, they've got their savings tied up and their entire plans tied up, resting on this lawsuit.
See, I believe that exposes the whole scam of big cannabis right there, because if it was just about them getting to open, it would be one thing, in my opinion. They're actually stopping other people from opening because they want to be one of the first to open. And when you have an existing medical facility and you're a large corporation and adult use comes in, this is what happened in Massachusetts. They all got to open first, and they get the 3, 4, 5 year head start. They get to gouge the patients for 5 years. And that's what they want. They want that right now. And they don't want competition from smaller players. You can see it. It's so obvious. The lawsuit isn't about them opening so much. It's about stopping. I mean, the injunction, that's what they've done. They've stopped other smaller players from opening.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it seems very disingenuous to call yourself the Coalition for Access to Safe and Regulated Cannabis and then at the same time be preventing opening licensed dispensaries that sell safe and legal cannabis.
I mean, that, because we've had equity battles in the city of Cambridge. We were behind an equity provision, and the hardest thing about it was to deny to deny someone else opening in a way, like, because that's what that did. That delayed the big cannabis companies for 3 years from opening and allowing the smaller players to actually get a chance to open during that 3-year period and not get monopolized out, which has happened in so many other communities. I mean, this is the fight that we see, is the small players are still trying to get open, and they're not going to make it, and they have to sue, and all this crazy stuff goes on. And it's because the big players have gobbled up everything and won't allow them to open, and have paid off all the politicians locally. So it's a really shady situation, and you can totally see it. And this one is like, I don't know how they do that. Because I know, like, myself, just being a little activist here, like, I felt pressure on that, like taking that kind of stand. They've got a lot more to lose. They've got billion-dollar companies, and they're not shutting out big cannabis. They're shutting out the smaller players. Like, that seems real. I think a lot more people should really kind of take a look at this situation, because that, to me, just exposes it. It's like you're not even suing, really, it seems like, to open yourself. You're just suing to stop these other folks from opening before you.
Yeah, and that first mover advantage is so valuable. When you're able to take advantage of that initial price, higher prices that come along immediately post legalization, they crash and stabilize pretty quickly. But you can make back a lot of your initial investment if you are part of that group that gets first mover advantage. And so it's really unfortunate that small businesses are being tied up like this in New York right now. Horrible.
So who are some of these companies that are behind that organization? I know Green Thumb Industries, I believe, is one of them, right?
So it's been reported in Burn After Reading. Eric Casey put together a nice profile, and Hellgate, New York did the same when this group was founded. And so I don't want to name names. I don't want to be the face of a boycott, but I really think it brings attention to, the importance of spending money with companies whose values you align with, and not spending money with companies whose values you don't align with, or who might actively be, aligned against your values and against maybe entrepreneurs and businesses that you care about.
Get some comments coming in from LinkedIn. Tara says, "Hey, I'm down for a boycott of these assholes anytime. I don't know why I still censor myself. I don't think I really need to anymore. when I was back on a
I do
network,
it
there
in
was a
writing
need to do it.
sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. She also writes, is this about New York? What's up? Yes, it's about New York. Oh, she also likes your puppy. Hi, puppy. Hi, B.
She sees some squirrels and birds outside the window.
See, there's always something. She was being too good earlier. But even that, she's pretty chill, like looking out the window. My dog would be, he'd be going crazy. He'd be barking too. Tara also writes, oh yeah, no, we aren't getting behind the lawsuits. We know it's MSO latching on to veterans. I'm a veteran. I say F that. Boycott MSO. And then someone else is also on the dog angle, says a LinkedIn user says, my pups would be in the camera saying, hi, who's not talking to me? That's my dog. That is my dog. It's my time, Daddy. Let me get up on your lap. I love dogs.
Yeah, B does think she's a lap dog sometimes. So.
How big is B? She looks big now. How big?
60 pounds.
Okay. Yeah, she's big. She's strong. I can see that too.
Oh yeah.
Now she's showing interest. She's looking all around. So, I know that we were talking about New York State, but there are other things I want to talk about too, like the employee situation, because I feel like with what you're doing is totally 100% what we all want to see in the industry. What would your advice be to employees at some of these companies? You've seen some of the stuff that we've exposed on the show and just different employees coming on, giving their stories. What would your advice be to cannabis workers right now?
Oh man. Yeah, I've worked for a number of companies. I think that the best thing you can do is with any job, weed or not, is look out for yourself. Unless you have vested equity ownership in a business, there's no reason to put that business before your health, mental or physical. And I'd say learn what you can, and always be looking for a new and better opportunity if you don't feel like you're being valued where you're at. I know there are some companies that treat their people well, but there's a lot that don't, and this industry is still in its infancy, and brought in a lot of players that maybe just saw a quick buck, and now they're trying to make that off cheap labor, and I don't think that that's sustainable for workers or for the industry at large.
I don't think it's sustainable either. How long do you think before we start seeing some like major crashes here? Like it's already down and out, but like I always say, like, I feel like TrueLeaf is going to go out of business someday. Like, do you think that will happen? Do you think some of these companies are just going to like one day just be like, we're done, it's over?
I don't think you'll see any of them say we're done, it's over. You do see some divesting from states where they don't know how to make money in. You do see a lot of M&A activity when companies are getting low on cash.
It seems like they're low on cash right now. Like from what I'm looking at, like TrueLeaf and Curaleaf, they don't seem like they have a lot of cash right now. And GTI.
Yeah, I don't know how many months of burn any of those companies have, or how much they might have to raise in the future. I mean, they all have the benefit of public markets, right? So they can theoretically raise money indefinitely.
Doesn't that get harder to do with the interest rates higher and their stock lower? I mean, that seems
it does get a lot harder in like today's economic environment. You see a lot of them advocating for changes to laws that would allow them to uplist to more liquid exchanges in the U.S. so that they could get money that's easier to get. Essentially, large money managers aren't allowed to invest. Sometimes it's not in cannabis, but sometimes it's just they're not allowed to invest on the exchanges where these companies are traded, because they're Canadian exchanges that aren't as highly regulated as U.S. exchanges.
absolutely, definitely not. It's not the same. You can't buy it, all those, lot of apps and things you can't buy those even Vancouver exchanges unless you're paying more money too.
Right. Yeah. You don't get the free trades either.
Exactly. If they even list it. Like, I don't even know if Weed Maps is even on Robinhood anymore. Like actually it might be. It was off, that was on. I mean, you know, a lot of these companies are just, you never know. Yeah, we do have a phone number if anyone wants to call in tonight, 978-560-3155. If you have a question for Chris Becker of the Honeybee Collective. How long has the Honeybee Collective been around?
We started the company, I'll say the first inkling of an idea was December 2020. We had 3 or 4 interest meetings, and we ran a couple surveys to validate the idea. We've been in market since April of last year, so a little over 18 months. We've actually been selling products in Colorado.
And you, like, I see that you have the tins, you have the calm, you have the different pre-roll, like little tins. I like the look of those.
Thank you.
Are those like top sellers? What are some of your like top selling products, things that, you know, people come back to the Honeybee Collective for?
Our most selling product far and away is our 10-pack of pre-rolls. There's 10 half-gram pre-rolls in a tin. We select strains for effects. We have Peace, Pause, and Party, which is our substitute for indica, hybrid, and sativa, to let people know what they can expect out of the strains that they're smoking. And then we have the pleasure of going to the farm and trying these strains and deciding which mood they're going to go in. It's that's my favorite part of the job for sure.
I would enjoy that. That would be very enjoyable.
Well, when next time you come out to Colorado, we'll take you to visit the farm where we get
if I can have a getaway from the dog business. It's so funny. People don't get, my family must think I'm nuts because I never.
You don't get a lot.
My girlfriend's son is getting married in our town, thank God, and it's going to be a great way. Like, we're so excited for this, and she's like, "Don't schedule any dog walks. Don't schedule any customers." Customer hits me up. I'm like, "Oh, he'll be so easy." I booked it.
When you're an entrepreneur, saying no to work is hard. I get it.
Well, it's like, because especially I'm like, you know what? Like, we already. It's funny, on this one, I wouldn't have booked it, but like, I'm already in charge of our dog. Like, I'm going back and forth for our dog during the wedding. We've already decided that, like, we don't trust anyone else, and this will be easy. So I'm like, you know, I can. Winston's just like our dog. Don't, you know? It's so funny. So yeah, I'm always working, even on the one day that we agreed. But so anyways, not enough about me tonight. Tell me more about Chris Becker. How did you decide to get into cannabis too?
Oh man, I'd always wanted to work with weed in some way, and I did prior to legalization for a while. The industry first got my attention when Maryland legalized, and I was actually not using any. I was physically sober at the time. I didn't use any substances at all for about 8 years, and Maryland legalized, and I looked at the law and I saw how few licenses they were giving out, and I thought, man, that looks like a license to print money. and it got my business mind spinning. And I tried to get a group together to apply for one of the licenses. We didn't end up getting an application together. And I watched, and it took a couple of years for the industry to get off the ground. Finally, I went to work for a vertically integrated company in Maryland. I saw a brand ambassador position open up, and I just applied for it. I'd never done brand ambassador work before, but I have a background in marketing and in sales. That's what I've done for most of my career for various companies. So it wasn't too far out of line with what I was familiar with. Started there and then moved up into a sales role, and then started working for a testing lab. Sold weed for a company in Colorado, and then ultimately we started the Honeybee Collective.
Awesome. And I'm gonna assume that you do, but do you grow cannabis too?
At home, I'm not growing any right now, but I do sometimes.
Do you have any advice for first-time growers like me, growing outside for the first time ever?
I have a guide that I wrote. It's on our website. You can download our home grow guide I don't know what the link is on our
So
website.
the Honeybee Collective has a home grow guide on their website.
Yeah. I don't. It's if you go to the link in bio on my bio or on any of Honeybee Collective's socials, I know the home grow guide is there. I don't know what the link is on our website.
Awesome, I'll find it. That's awesome. What other cannabis company has a home grow guide? Like that's so like you guys get it. Like you really get it. Like I don't think anyone else does. You would think with all the marketing geniuses out there that they would be doing shit like that. The big companies, they don't though. They're
It's
so
been the
dumb.
most popular download on our website by far. I mean, we've had other resources on there, but they don't get nearly as much attention as the home grow guide. There's a lot of desire for that information. I think some companies think that people are going to grow their own weed and stop buying weed. I think
No,
that most people that grow their own weed are going to start to appreciate good weed more and what goes into good weed more, and B, they probably are just going to get more into it, and they might be more likely to try new products or buy your product. I
I
don't view
agree.
it as a
I
threat at
agree.
all.
Because the more you get into cannabis, like I'm a guy who's into cannabis, like I'm buying it for everybody. Like it's like, and I'll grow it. Like it's like I don't know. It's like the guys who make their own beer. Like
Yeah,
you know that they're at the pub,
yeah.
they're at the liquor store, and
They
they're
don't
still
not
brewing
go
their
to
own
the
beer.
brewery. Yeah.
Those are like the guys that you want as customers, like beyond because you know they love beer. If they're making beer, they love beer. Like you
Right.
know what I mean? Like it's like if you're selling cannabis, you want the customers who love cannabis.
There's been all these companies that built their brand and products for this like theoretical, like kind of
Newbie,
curious
yeah,
person
yeah.
that like where the microdosing soccer mom. The
Which
soccer
is
moms I know smoke weed. You know what I
yeah,
mean? They rip
right.
that pen hard. They're not
Yeah,
microdoses like kind of curious customers.
they end up acting like everybody else. Like me, I'm
Yeah.
basically a freaking square. Like I'm a jock athlete, like financial guy, sales guy. Like I'm the average kind of, you know what I mean? Like American, like, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not out of the realm. Like,
Right.
I'm not like so much of a hippie or whatever. And it's just like, you're right. Like it's, if you like cannabis, you smoke weed. Like that's it. Like, it's like, go.
And we wanted to make the brand for people that are already consuming cannabis that so that they would have that easier choice of a more sustainable product. You know, I was one of the things that also inspired the Honeybee Collective is I was working in a dispensary as a bud tender and I was weighing out a pound of weed. And I weighed out an eighth. And then I thought, how much does this plastic jar that I'm putting the weed in weigh? And it weighs 12.5 grams. So for every pound of flour that you sell in plastic jars, it creates 3.1 pound of plastic waste. And I was just like, that is unconscionable. And I would always, when I was selling wholesale, I would go to places and I would see tubes from joints that I had sold littered in the parking lot. And I would just be so upset that like I'm contributing to this poisoning of our environment, right? And I like to be outside and I like to go hiking, and so does B. And I hate to see all that kind of trash everywhere I go. So we decided to go with more environmentally friendly packaging solutions that hopefully don't cause that same kind of waste.
So tell us about that too, because there's like I know the tins. What else? What's the difference between what you're using and just the plastic that doesn't get recycled? We know, like I know that now. We throw the plastic in our recycling bins, it ends up in the landfill. Like
Totally.
the
Yeah.
the whole thing has changed in the last couple of years. The costs have gone up. There's nowhere to recycle it anymore. So the plastic ends up going thrown out. It's not being recycled. I think glass gets recycled. I think other things get recycled, but plastic definitely is not. What are
Yep.
you guys doing? Like, what's different about what you're doing, and what are they doing?
So we're constantly looking for the most environmentally friendly solution that we can get. Right now, what we're using is tin for our 10 packs of pre rolls and for our flour. And for our 2 pack of pre rolls, we use a compostable tube. It's home compostable. So you can just put it right in your home compost bin. 3 to 6 months, it'll be degraded. Um, we went with tin because when we looked at plastic, glass, tin, all these different options, it was the best combination of recyclability and product preservation, right? The best packaging would be no packaging, and if I could just sell you a bag, like a bulk bag of joints, that would be awesome. But it wouldn't protect the joints. You wouldn't have a good experience. Cardboard is okay, but at the time we couldn't find a cardboard and compostable bag solution that was CR certified, child resistant. So we went with tin, and tin is about 90% recycled. When you put it into a single stream bin, it does get reused, and it can be reused indefinitely. It doesn't suffer any loss of
degradation.
Yeah. You can just keep making new tin from the same old stuff over and over again. So, and it's also light. Glass is highly recycled too, but it's really heavy to transport. Like, and also as a bud tender, like I've like
you break it
my back picking up just
it breaks cigar. And it breaks too, and can, you know, that's what I always worry about is when I have my cannabis in the glass. If you break the glass and the cannabis has shards in it, it's like, oh man. So yeah,
so we didn't love the glass, and also you need a top for the glass, and at the time there weren't, I don't think, compostable tops. I think you can get compostable and also hemp biochar tops now, which is cool. And so we're not like married to our packaging, but we want it to be a good experience and as environmentally low impact as we can possibly make it.
Now, the pricing on that stuff, the tin and the compostable, is it like comparable to plastic? Like, is there a reason why everyone else is using plastic? And
it's not really comparable. So like when you look at our 2-pack of pre-rolls, right? If you wanted to get a plastic tube for that, you could probably get it labeled for under 25 cents when you buy it in bulk, and we're paying about 60 cents in the volumes that we're buying it for. So it's quite a bit more expensive. The tin, I'd say that for joints, right, the cheapest solution is probably going to be a cardboard and plastic combination, or a straight plastic combination. We do pay a little bit of a premium, but it's not quite as much. I'd say it's like a 30% premium and not like a 60% premium. But it is still more expensive. You know, people will pay a little bit more for environmentally friendly products. They told us that in surveys, and they've shown that in real life since we've been in market. So it's not like we're trying to pass along a tax to the consumer, but at the end of the day, we all need to pay for our the externalities of our decisions someday, or it's just being passed on to future generations. So
I agree 100%. And I will pay oftentimes a little more just so that I have less guilt about it. Like I feel guilty by all the plastic that I throw out every week. It's just like, you know, people talk about greenhouse gases and the environment and all that stuff. I worry more about the plastic. Like I just think there's just too much crappy plastic. When you look at the ocean, it's filled with that micro scum of plastic. It gets into everything. And that is like, I don't know. It just seems so like, you know, part of the greenhouse gas thing for me, it's just like, you know, how are we going to fix that? Because people need to drive, people need to heat their homes and things. But in the plastic, it just seems so stupid. It's like, we're just doing this for convenience and cost. Like there's no excuse for it. And I just, it sucks that we have to pay more to not use plastic. But I feel like if more people start thinking like that, the costs go down. And I just hope it becomes more of a trend, because I hate the amount of trash that we all throw out. It just, especially knowing, you know, everyone thinks it's getting recycled, and it's not. That plastic is not getting recycled.
It totally does have to lead with demand a little bit, and there have to be people that are willing to pay a little bit more to create the demand for the bigger companies to start using it. That's when the price starts to go down, right? When you have a company that buys 1 million a year units instead of 100,000 units, the price starts to come down a little bit for everybody. So yeah, hopefully some bigger companies start making these choices as well.
I hope so. I applaud the Honeybee Collective for doing that. I see some people talking about it. You know, some business owners, before they were licensed, they're telling me that they were going to go that route, and then they didn't. you know. So it's like, it's just funny how people talk a good game, and then it comes to we got a couple comments from someone who's watching on YouTube. He said, "Damn, I want a sub." I'll say, "Why wouldn't you?" And then he says, "But you got 666 subs." Oh man, I guess he's satanic. That's okay. Yeah, you know what? Like, we want more than 666. So please give us 667, buddy. Please subscribe. Anyone who's watching, please subscribe. And he also asked, you ever check out Stick 666? I don't think I like him, actually. I think I have checked him out. You know who I did like too was like the Satanic Temple. I actually have done work with them, so I have some satanic credibles, but they've also got some issues too. Well, I'll just put it that way. I don't want to get into the Satanic Temple stuff, but they're suing people, which I think is weird. Not like, you know, the right wingers. They're suing some of their own people, which I think is very weird. But this person,
yeah,
so
I like the right wingers. But
yeah, I like when they sue the right wingers, but I think, like, even in Boston, they sued the city of Boston. It was so stupid. They lost. It's like they lose a lot of lawsuits. But I can't badmouth the Satanic Temple though. I can't. They used to pay me. I'm coming out. I used to work for the Satanic Temple, actually. And like, I grew up Christian, Catholic. I still believe in God and all that, but I kind of liked what they were doing, and I needed some money. I was just answering emails for them.
Love that.
I'm coming out tonight. I'm coming out.
This is the first time you've told that publicly?
I don't know. I may have hinted at it. They've been on the show before. You know, I don't know. I may have. I don't know.
You may have disclosed it.
But it's so funny. Back when I was working for them, they were like, dude, don't tell anyone. They were like, seriously, people come after us. Like, you don't know. You don't want to bring this into your life. They're like, I won't tell anyone. It's the way it was run, like in the very beginning. I'm coming out now.
I believe it. I mean, yeah. I could see them being targeted by all kinds of people. So
yeah. So I had some weird name that I would respond. I can't even remember what it was, actually.
You don't remember your Satanic Temple pen?
No, because I think it was like, because the person who had done it before, I actually do remember it. It was Eva. I'm giving away all the secrets now. They're probably gonna come after me. I better be quiet. Chris, I don't even know how we got on this. Oh, I know what it was. This guy's talking about how I'm at 666 right now on subs on YouTube. Guys, put us over 666.
Somebody please subscribe to this.
Yeah, channel. We need 1,000. We need 1,000. Give us 1,000. I actually want to thank everyone too for, you know, just all the new subscribers lately over the last months for YouTube and iTunes and all those places. It's unbelievable, especially like iTunes and Spotify. It's like, wow. Thank you so much. I want to thank all our listeners too. I want to thank Chris tonight for being on the show. I'm sure you have other things you want to talk about. Anything that you want to kind of bring up tonight too, that, you know, maybe the cannabis community doesn't know about or they should know about, or anything you want to promote?
Oh man. Yeah, so we're actively raising money right now through a crowdfunding platform. I'd love to promote that. If anybody is interested in supporting our business, if you like what you've heard today about employee ownership and sustainability in the cannabis industry, we are raising money, and you can own an interest in the Honeybee Collective and help us compete on a broader scale and bring our values to more states, and pay people livable wages and give them equity ownership in this industry that work for us. So you can go to mainvest.com and search for the Honeybee Collective. It's also in the link in our bio and all of our social media at Honeybee Collective at the.honeybee.collective on Instagram, at Honeybee Canico on Twitter, the Honeybee Collective on Facebook, on LinkedIn.
And you have a link tree too, right?
Link tree's in our bio. Yep.
Yeah, I got that up on the screen too for people watching at home. It's link tr.ee/Honeybee Collective.
Nice, thank you. Yeah, so if you want to be an owner in the Honeybee Collective, would love to have you check out the Mainvest page. My contact info's on there. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. You know, I'd really just love to encourage people to support companies that they share their values. You know, it's not easy sometimes to figure out who owns cannabis companies and who they are and what they're about, but the ones that are smaller tend to be more transparent, I think. and they need your support more. Cannabis is a hard industry to be in. So seek out those smaller companies that you share their values and support them financially with your purchases. It's really important right now, as the industry is basically ripe for consolidation. I mean, I think we have 300 less licenses and about 800 less workers in the Colorado cannabis industry over the past year. It's just rapidly shrinking. Companies going out of business or getting bought up. And I think that consumers are better served when there's a diverse industry of smaller businesses rather than just being served by a few large conglomerates.
Now, is the tax revenue gone down in Colorado with those lost jobs or not?
Our total sales have gone down, and so that would indicate a loss in tax revenue as well. Yeah, we're declining year over year for the past several months. So there is less tax money. They've raised the taxes in some cities, and the marijuana enforcement division actually recently raised their fees both for workers to get their industry badge and background check and for relicensing renewals and that kind of thing.
Oh my God, that seems so ass backwards. It's like
Yeah.
instead of like cutting barriers to expand the market, you're raising, like, that's, if you're worried about it, oh my God, that's just so crazy. I can't believe they're doing that. Like, because that
I
was
will
my
give
next
them
question.
credit.
What have they done? Because that's what I'm worried about. Like, I'm wondering what Massachusetts is going to do when our revenues start going down, because that hasn't happened yet, but I think it's going to happen eventually, like within the year or so, like if not sooner. What, like, it's to me, to raise the prices, that just seems really not a smart move.
Well, I will give them credit for not raising, and I think there's a reduced fee schedule for social equity businesses. So they are still trying to, like Mass, encourage more social equity participation in the industry. And I think that those fees are lower. There's all kinds of other issues with our social equity programming where practically people can't get licenses because of zoning setbacks and that kind of thing. But at least from the regulatory, like, funding perspective,
From the state, yeah,
they're
it's just like Massachusetts. The state is cool, but then you have to get by the local city and town and their zoning BS, and you end up having to sue the city, and it's crazy.
Same deal. Yeah, local control has been a disaster for cannabis businesses everywhere.
So let me ask you about the funding round. You talked about the main vest, people can invest. How has that gone? Like, has the response been good? I imagine it has been, right?
Yeah. So we raised. This is our second fundraising round. Our first round broke records, and it was really cool. We raised $250,000 from 203 people. This time we've raised $60,000 so far. I think from another 45 or 50 people. I'd have to look at the stats again.
So it's like $1,000 a person. It's kind of what like, or maybe a little more, but that's kind of like the average.
That's the average, yeah. You can invest with $100, and you can invest amounts up to $500,000. Not that I expect anybody to kick that in today, but yeah.
And this is anyone can be. It doesn't have to be like a qualified investor with $3 million. Anyone can throw in.
Anybody with a U.S. bank account.
Awesome. And so even if you're like a Canadian citizen or something, you can throw into.
I think if you have a U.S. bank account, you could, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So that's great. I hope you get more partners there, because I want to see more of this. Sustainable, caring about your community, caring about the environment, caring about customers and workers, especially, like that. More than even what they say for a livable wage is what we need to see in the cannabis industry. So I guess like final thoughts, I guess, on the worker angle. There's a lot of organizing going on too in the cannabis industry, but a lot of times it doesn't go anywhere. Like, do you think that's just normal, like the way it is in America right now? Or do you think it's more in the cannabis industry, there's more pushback to unions and things like that?
I mean, there's like a direct correlation with the loss of union power, right, on a federal level, and the decline in union participation just across industries. And I think there's some like thought that a union's not going to help me. And I think cannabis industry workers, whether they're owners or employees, I do think that there's a tendency to be a little bit more independent, and maybe not want to be a part of a big, thing with bureaucracy to it, even if it does have your best interests at heart, right? So I understand why there's some resistance. I hope it'll change. I mean, we're not a union. Our workers aren't unionized, but we only have one that's not a founder, and we're not opposed to it in any way. We would very much embrace it if we had a team of employees that wanted to unionize.
Doesn't seem like you will when they're owners. The owners are the workers, so it's kind of
We give people most of the benefits that a union would give you as far as representation with management and a livable wage is concerned, right? We did a lot of research about cooperatives, employee ownership, traditional business models, and we decided employee ownership best encompassed our ideals of wanting to give workers a voice in management and exposure to the profits. And so we do engage our workers, again, the one that we have right now, and we'll continue to do that as far as our management decisions are concerned. We try to, we have like, an unlimited time off policy, and we actually embrace using it. We even implemented a 4-day work week recently, and we're doing 4/8s, not 4/10s, and productivity's never been higher. When you say to somebody, hey, here's how you can do your job in 32 hours a week, and you don't have to work those other 8 hours if you don't want to, they'll get that shit done.
Oh yeah. I used to work a union job. We did 4 10-hour shifts, and then if you wanted to on Friday, you could come in and make more money overtime. That was awesome. Yeah, that's how I got myself through college. I'd work 5 days a week every week. I'd do basically 48 hours a week, 8 hours OT, getting union money. It was unbelievable.
Nice.
For me back then, in college. But yeah, I think I love 4-day work weeks. I agree. It's you can get so much more done quickly. Who needs the 5th day, really? And if you do a 5th day, I want overtime.
Right. Yeah.
But
3-day weekend should be the norm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. So oh man, I had another question too related to what we were just talking about, which is the union issue. I'm not sure where I went. You caught me off guard with I just go to my OCD tonight. It's okay though. We'll come up. I'm sure I'll come up with the thought like right as I'm leaving. I'll be like, we're done with the show. Have a good night, Chris. Let me ask you one more question. How I always do it to people. But I want to thank you so much for coming, being on the show tonight. I know what it was. It was a selfish question. It was about me. Because what I really want is I want the 5 gram 10 joint in Massachusetts. How much do you sell those for in Colorado right now? How much how much does that retail for?
They're retailing between 38 and 46 depending on the store that you're in. But our wholesale price Keystone markup is 38.
Is it like with the wholesale price? Do you usually double? How does that work?
I'll pull the curtain back a little bit for the listeners. Most stores shoot for 100% markup, which is a 50% margin. If they don't charge that in cannabis because of 280E, they are probably losing money when they sell stuff, because they can't write off their expenses related to selling. So 100% is the minimum. And then some stores are able to get a little bit more than that if they're in a high traffic area, a richer neighborhood, that kind of thing, a tourist area here in Colorado.
Now I hear from a lot of the smaller growers, especially in Massachusetts, that they're having a lot of issues with getting paid from the dispensaries that they sell the product to. Do you run into that a lot too? Is that an issue, or is that not so much an issue in Colorado at this point?
It is an issue in Colorado. I see people complaining about it in industry, like social networking pages. We had one client that we were doing marketing for that never paid us. And we had one dispensary customer that has paid down their bill, still owes us a little bit of money.
And I mean, that's got to be tough when, I'm sure your margins are pretty tight. It's got to be tough when.
It's really tough. Yeah. Especially for us as a brand. We don't own the grow. We don't do the rolling our joints ourselves. We do all of that through a partner that has the actual license to touch the plant. Right. So our margins are slim and we don't get paid until they get paid. So yeah, it is very tough for a brand or for the grower to not collect. I mean, they have very real expenses in growing that product and rolling joints before they ever send it out the door. So,
and so are you going to be doing that same type of, because I know that makes you different too. Are you going to do the same thing in Massachusetts? Like it's kind of like almost like a licensing and a program. How does that work? Like when you go to a state like Massachusetts, do you do the same thing as Colorado, or is it a little different?
So that's the easiest way to do it, and the way that we will probably do it. We are actively working with some partners to try to potentially acquire, ideally retail. We'd like to acquire a number of retail stores that we could make into employee owned or cooperatively owned, depending on where we can get the financing. And in that case, we would then be a plant touching company in a state where we would execute that strategy. But for now, easiest and what the capital that we have available, the licensing deals are the fastest way and give us a chance, right? Because there's already across the country so much grow and processing infrastructure. You see it sometimes. You see it like being repurposed already, right? The industry is still very new, but you see these places becoming redundant already. So we want to help empower growers that are already licensed, but maybe don't sell as much product as they'd like to have a brand that is compelling and gets them a great margin, and helps us lift up growers who are doing their best to, make environmentally friendly product.
Do you think there comes a certain point when people are selling all these grows that it'll be worthwhile to even buy them? Because I always wonder, like, we're seeing stuff getting sold now and people, just giving up licenses. Is there a certain point where it's like, okay, now it's time to get in on this because the prices come down so much?
Honestly, I don't think so for indoor growing in a lot of places. If you look at it here in Colorado, you cannot make money growing weed indoors in Denver, unless you have some real secret sauce, whether that's like automation or you're like really fucking your employees over, or like your profits are going to come from somewhere and they're not coming from your lease or your electric bill, right?
So why do people stay in business? Because I'm hearing the same thing from growers, especially the ones that don't like, I've said some of their gripes not being paid, things like that, but their costs are so high, they're not making a profit. I know a lot of them are questioning whether they should stay in business. Some people have already gone out of business. At a certain point, I have to feel like, why would, like, it seems like we have a big problem here. Like, if we're going to lose our growers, where are we going to get the good product?
Yep. Yeah, we do have a problem for sure. I think that if you really want to get good product, find some good outdoor and greenhouse growers that do have a competitive cost of production, and support them, because I think that product tends to be superior. There was a study done growing the same plant indoors and outdoors, and comparing the minor cannabinoids, terpenes, stickiness. The only metric where outdoor struggles against indoor is bag appeal, in my opinion. Every attribute otherwise is superior. And I get that, like, yeah, sure, you have like higher controls inside, but like the cost of production outside is so cheap. Like, you can just grow so much more and just cut all the good stuff out. Like,
There you go.
So yeah, I don't know what the solution is there, and I don't know that like some of these assets will ever be worth anything. Like I said, they're going away with no value. Like people can't sell the licenses because they're attached to a lease where you couldn't make money if you bought that business. So I don't
That's
know. I don't see
super.
it changing. I think a lot of growers, they hang on as long as they can because they're passionate, and sometimes they think that the price is going to go up. So far, it hasn't gone up. I mean, there was a period during COVID where it went up from like it was trending down, but like I think for the most part, it just keeps going down.
I guess my last question tonight, because we've covered quite a bit of the kind of just like what's going on with the industry in terms of growers and margins. There's a thing where the MSOs have been pushing safe banking forever. Would safe banking doesn't fix 280E, does it?
No.
I mean, that to me seems crazy. Like if they're ever going to get anything passed, shouldn't 280E be the thing that they try to fix, not safe banking? Safe banking seems like really, I don't know, like you said, it gets maybe their stock ticker on, Chicago or something else, some other exchange over Vancouver, but it
and
does,
and and and
seems
as it
small. It
stands,
seems
it
small.
doesn't. Yeah, as it's written, safe banking doesn't help them uplist. There's even a rumor that safe banking has been tabled for now because MSO lobbyists are pushing to include language that would explicitly allow them to uplist to U.S. exchanges. Um, Look, I'll take out my tinfoil hat here, right? If I had public financing and essentially a too big to fail like footprint across the country that I had like invested hundreds of millions of investor dollars in, um, I might bank on incrementalism to be a better strategy to choke out smaller businesses and competitors, right? If I'm confident that I can keep that money coming in and I don't need to fund my operations from cash flow, choke them out. That's the big advantage that public companies have against smaller privately financed companies is that like they can sell at a loss because it's not their money and they
Like
can
like Amazon.
yeah
Amazon sold for a loss in books,
for
put all
years.
the bookstores out of business, and then the book prices came up.
Yeah,
It's like it's what that's what Amazon has done in every thing that they've been in. Is they sell at a loss until they put their competition out of business, and then they raise the price.
yeah. What Walmart did that too. Like they would
Yeah, Walmart. Yeah.
Walmart would put two Walmarts in a city until all the small businesses were out of business, and then they would close one of the Walmarts. like,
And then raise the prices.
and then yeah. So it's just big Wall Street strategy against smaller businesses that are trying to do better than that.
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't think it's a conspiracy theory. I think you're right on the mark on that. That's probably why they secretly don't want 280E to disappear. And it's probably like I always look at the long game too. Like I'm convinced that some of these companies are set up to sell out.
I think that
The big alcohol, big tobacco. I think they already know in some cases who they're going to sell to.
I think you're right on the money with that. I think a lot of them are built to sell and be acquired either by pharma or big tobacco. And I mean, like everybody that wants an exit is thinking about who they're gonna sell to. You're either building your business for an exit or you're building your business to be sustainably profitable. It's really the only two things you can build for. Shit, I forgot I had another point, but I lost it.
We're both doing that tonight, but we'll get back to it. I want to thank you so much for being here tonight, Chris. Tell everyone again how they can get in touch with you. You're on Twitter. You're at Chris Honeybee on Twitter, right?
Yeah, at Chris_Honeybee on Twitter, at Honeybee Canico on Twitter, on Instagram. I don't really use my personal, but at the.honeybee.collective. Facebook or Instagram. I mean, Facebook or LinkedIn, just search the Honeybee Collective. You'll find us.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here tonight, Chris.
LinkedIn and Twitter primarily. So yeah, follow us on there. Appreciate everybody's support. And you can find our crowdfunding on Mainvest, mainvest.com. And you can invest from there or the link tree that's on the screen here.
Thank you so much, Chris. And we're going to put it in the podcast description to the link tree so you can find all about Honeybee Collective. And if you want to invest in as well with the main vest, you'll find it right there on the link tree link. I want to thank you again, Chris, for being here. Thank all our listeners. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Have a great night.
Thank you, everybody. We're the